למה יש עדיין פלסטינים שחיים במכונות פליטים? יש עדיין כאלה. לפי דעתך.
זה לא בגללנו. זה בגלל שהמצרים, אף אחד לא רוצה אותם. מצרים, הירדנים, הכי נוח להם שהם יהיו אצלנו.
כאילו בשטחים.
בשטחים, כן.
בעזה וזה.
והם מחפשים שאנחנו ניתן להם פתרון.
אבל למה אנחנו לא נותנים פתרון?
למה הסורים, למה הירדנים, למה המצרים נותנים להם פתרון? למה אנחנו צריכים לתת להם פתרון? זה לא שהם... אנחנו יהודים, הם ערבים, מה לעשות?
אבל ישראל היה חלק מהמלחמה.
גם, הם מקבלים איתנו גם, לדעתי. אני לא יודע, אבל מקבלים, מעבירים להם כספים, מעבירים להם את הכל. זה שהראשים שלהם לוקחים את הכספים לכיס, זה משהו אחר. כל חודש מעבירים להם כסף. כל חודש. בשביל שיהיה שקט. זה אני יודע.
למה יש פלסטינים שעדיין חיים במכונות פליטים?
זה הבעיה שלהם, הם רוצים את זה. הם בחרו את זה, לא אנחנו.
אבל מי אשם בזה?
מי אשם בזה? כן. כמובן שהם. הם בוחרים להיות מסכנים כל הזמן. הייתה להם הרבה הזדמנויות לעשות שלום, לקבל מה שהם רוצים. לא רצו, ויתרו על זה. והם נותנים את העדפה להיות מסכנים.
הם אומרים שזה השם שיהודים אשמים, ועד שהם יכולים לחזור לכפרים שלהם, נגיד ביפו וחיפה וזה, אז הם לא עוזבים.
זה לא יקרה. כמו שהם לא יעזור, גם אנחנו לא נעזור. אנחנו גם לא נעזור, נשאר פה כל הזמן.
למה יש פלסטינים עד היום שגרים במכונות פליטים? אתה פחות בעניין? אוקיי, מי אשם בזה? זה מה שהם רוצים לדעת. לא מעוניין. טוב. לפי דעתך, למה יש עדיין פלסטינים שחיים במכונות פליטים? את יודעת?
לדעתי, למה? כי המצב הפוליטי פה מאוד סבוך ואין מה לעשות, יש השלכות. זה שזה בסדר?
לא בסדר.
לא בטוח.
אוקיי. מי אשם בזה?
מי אשם בזה? אני חושבת שבסיפור הזה של המלחמה הזאת אי אפשר כאילו להגיד אשמים, כולם אשמים. או אף אחד לא אשם.
Why do some Palestinians live in refugee camps, and whose fault is it?
I think זה קשה בשבילי.
אפשר בעברית?
אפשר. אפשר, כן.
אפשר בעברית?
כן, כן.
אז אוקיי, אז למה יש פלסטינים עדיין חיים במכונות פליטים, ומי אשם בזה?
אני חושב שהם עצמם אשמים בזה, כי הם לא משקיעים בפיתוח של האנשים ובהשכלה ובחינוך. הם מעדיפים לשים את הכסף על דברים אחרים, כמו נשק למשל.
כאילו להילחם בישראל,
כן.
כאילו. אבל הם אומרים, הם נלחמים נגד ישראל כי הם רוצים לחזור לפה, כי היהודים אשמים, הישראל אשמים.
זה לא סותר את איכות החיים, זה לא חייב לבוא על חשבון זה. אם אתה רוצה להילחם ואתה צודק במשהו, אתה יכול להילחם, לא חייב להרוג ולרצוח. אתה יכול להילחם על ידי מדיניות, על ידי לחץ, על ידי כל מיני גורמים אחרים. אבל לא חייב להילחם בנשק ולהזניח ולהקריב את כל העם שלך.
למה יש עדיין פלסטינים שגרים במחנות פליטים?
אני לא יודעת, אני באמצע סיור הטעמים ותצטרך לחפש את התשובה במקום אחר. בהצלחה.
Why do some Palestinians still live in refugee camps? And whose fault is it?
I'm not laughing because it's funny, I'm laughing because of the absurdity of the question. There's no reason for them to live in refugee camps. Their leadership doesn't want to build them proper communities, and they take all the money that they get from government funding from all over the world. There's absolutely no reason for them to live in refugee camps. They should build normal homes.
Well, they say that until they go home.
Who's they?
Palestinians, who are the refugees,
Who's
until they go home.
Who's they?
The refugees say when they go home, they won't be refugees. And by home, they mean Jaffa.
I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. Nobody's ever told me that.
Palestinians, you're saying?
I'm just saying, I don't know who they is. They is a very big generalization. If you want to like...
Oh, Palestinian refugees. I do the same thing in Palestinian refugees camp. This is what they tell me.
I believe their leadership is keeping them in refugee camps. I think they might think that that's the only option, My grandparents were refugees from Europe in World War II after the Holocaust, and they went to America and they built homes. There's no reason they can't build homes. There's no reason they can't, if their leadership wants to take leadership, so they could leave the refugee camps and build
So what would you say to a refugee himself, not the leadership, because I can't go to them, a refugee, what would you say to a Palestinian refugee who's from, what's today Tel Aviv?
Jewish Palestinian refugee or an Arab Palestinian refugee? And he wants to...
There are no Jewish Palestinian refugees. Are there?
Of course, from before 1948.
People from this area, actually. Yes, true. Yeah. Forgot about that. Okay, but we're focusing on Palestinian Arab refugees. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the question? What am I...
what would you say to that person who says, I need to build my home in Sheikh Munis, which is where Tel Aviv University is?
He wants to build it and what?
Go back and live there. It's his village. That's what he says.
I don't think it's his village. I think that there was territories change, borders change. Right now he lives outside the borders of the state of Israel. You can't have it both ways. You can't say it's its own state and then also say I have a right to live on the other side of the border.
What's its own state? The PA, you mean? The Palestinian Authority?
Either the Palestinian Authority has autonomy or it doesn't. If it doesn't, so then they don't have... then they're not citizens of the state of Israel, in which case they have their own autonomous area that they supervise. If they aren't and they want to become part of the state of Israel, I'm all for extending sovereignty and for letting them be citizens of the state of Israel and building houses.
Okay, and then Mr. Refugee, who lives in Ramallah, could then go back...
The word refugee is so absurd because they're refugees by choice at this point.
Okay. Why are there some Palestinians still living in refugee camps, and whose fault is it?
The question is, are there refugee camps in Israel or in the Palestinian Authority?
In the Palestinian Authority and in Lebanon and Jordan.
The fault? Why?
Yeah, why?
Because part of it is they still believe they can come back here to their homes and whatever, when they fled in 48, 49, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think, why are they still there? Because the countries don't want them. They don't want to make them part of their country, part of their citizens. They also think that they should come back here. And
well, let's say in the Palestinian Authority, and they're in Palestine, but in Ramallah and Bethlehem, they're still refugee camps.
I think the same. I think the same reason.
Okay.
Is that even though they consider them as Palestinian, but a lot of them see themselves coming back, even though a lot of that dead generation died off, but they passed it on to their kids and grandchildren that one of these days they will be back. One of these days they will throw us into the sea and Israel won't exist anymore. In fact, it is 70 years and and I think part of it is everybody has to here too change the way they think and accept the other and also in the countries that they live in. Ask them. They want to become Jordanian, they want to become Lebanese, they want to become Syrian.
Okay, let's say they said they want to come back. Where are you from? Gesher, Aziv? Was there a Palestinian village somewhere near there? Let's say they want to go back there. Would you be okay with that?
The question is, what's going back there? Is moving everybody out?
Oh, it's on the land. There's something Jewish there now?
No, where we live, it's a kibbutz. So there was a house, I don't remember who, I think also it belonged to somebody before 1940, before the Civil War. Mm-hmm. I'm not totally sure.
So there was an Arab house there?
A house. It wasn't a village. It wasn't...
Okay.
But there was, I think, a house.
So the question is, if somebody wanted to move back to that house, would you be okay with that?
The house doesn't exist anymore. It would be the land.
Okay, so somebody wanted to rebuild that. Would you be okay with that?
I don't know. The question is, what would you want to do? To move us all the way out, and then
And then what happens to you?
And then what happens? Yeah. And everything we've built there, the whole community for the past 70-something years. So again, it's complicated. It's not easy to say, okay, we can give you back everything. I think there has to be a compromise. If it means that we give a sum of money that you think is, what's worth the land. Mm-hmm. or if there are places that they can come back easily, why not? But the question is, do they really want to come back to what there was, or is there a bigger picture around it? I don't know.
Oh, what's your first name?
Matan. Matan.
Yes. Kfar Saba. Hilarious. Okay.
At least everyone has the same names.
Why do Palestinians still live in refugee camps?
That took a dark turn.
Hey, you said you want a hard question.
אפשר לענות בעברית או זה חייב להיות?
אפשר בעברית.
בגלל שהם לא רוצים שלום, אז אנחנו חייבים לכבוש אותם, אחרת הם יהרגו אותנו.
Okay.
I mean, I think the question is a little bit more complicated than that. It really depends from what point in time you're looking at. You can make the argument that Jordan is a Palestinian country, hence they, in theory, could live there as free people, but they do not have equal rights in their own country.
But the question is, why do they still live in refugee camps in the West Bank, in Jordan, in Lebanon?
A lot of Israelis, you could make the argument, live in Israeli refugee camps by being expelled from North Africa. Hundreds of thousands of Jews.
Yeah, but Jews here don't live in refugee camps.
How do you define a refugee camp?
I don't know.
We need to agree on the terms if we want to have a meaningful conversation. What is a refugee camp?
A camp where only refugees live there until they go back to their original homes.
But what is their original homes? They're not...
Here, Jaffa.
שיבואו, מה?
הם לא יכולים לבוא.
למה?
כי אסור.
כי הם יהרגו אותנו.
זה משהו אחר.
אני יכול להוסיף?
כן, שנייה, רגע, שיסיים. מה רצית להגיד?
אנחנו היינו רוצים להיות בשלום עם כל
אם הם, אוקיי, נגיד מצב שהפלסטינים לא רוצים להרוג את הישראלים, אתה מקבל אותם פה?
כן, מה יש ערבים ביפו? מה אכפת לי?
אבל אנחנו מדברים על 8 מיליון אנשים.
8 מיליון אנשים? לא, הם גרים שם.
לא, פליטים, מכל פלסטינים. בכל העולם יש איזה בין 4 ל-8...
זאת השיבה לפלסטינים?
כן.
לא, התשובה היא לא. כי הם יהרגו אותנו.
אם לא, נגיד שהם מבטיחים.
אם לא, וכל יהיה בשלום, אז מבחינתי לבטל את הלאום, לבטל את הדת, ושכולנו נחיה בשלום ביחד.
You're asking a hypothetical question.
זה לא הולך לקרות.
Grounded in reality.
אם יהיה פה רוב פלסטיני, הם ישחטו אותנו, ואנחנו נמות. אז אנחנו לא ניתן לזה לקרות. מאוד פשוט.
Do you have something to add?
Yes, I have. Can I say in Hebrew?
Say it's better in English.
Better in English. First of all, I don't agree with anything these guys say.
Okay.
I think they...
By the way, you're just a random person who approached us. You don't know this. As opposed to...
I was on the way back. I'm on the way to go to swim and I heard these guys speak, you know.
Okay.
And this is the standard kind of stuff you hear from most Israelis. And I'm an Israeli. The bottom line is the Israelis do not want peace. They want territories. Since 1967 till now, there are more than 500,000 settlers in there. And on a daily basis, Israel expropriates lands from the Palestinians.
Yeah, but that's okay, but it's not here. Hold on.
What's the question?
The question is, why do some Palestinians live in refugee camps?
Because, listen, Palestinians live in refugee camps because the refugees, the main cause of the refugee problem is the war of 1948. And it's a problem that Israel has never resolved, because Israel has never stated that it's a problem of their making. They never let them return after the war, and usually when there's a war, people run away. In the case of 1948, many ran away, but also Israel expelled by force many, about 700,000 Palestinian refugees. And now Israel, what Israel has been saying, that the refugee problem is a problem that the Arab states have to resolve. Why do they have to resolve? They have their own problems with their own population. Israel refuses to recognize that the root cause of the refugee problem is the expulsion of the Palestinians in 1948.
You don't think the Palestinians have any...
I think they're the victims. I think basically, look, when you have two sides in an argument, it's like two kids in school. When you have a strong guy fighting a little guy, in order to make peace between, it's only if the strong guy agrees to make a peace. In this case, Israel is the bully here.
But what about, wait, hold on. But he has a legitimate argument that if Palestinians were here, they would kill Jews.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'll tell you why. Because I know Palestinians. And Palestinians are just like Israelis. They're good Palestinians, bad Israelis. Most Palestinians that I know want peace. And they want to live in peace. But the problem is that Israel does not want peace, it wants land.
Why do some Palestinians still live in refugee camps, and whose fault is that?
It's their own fault.
Why not Israel's?
Because we were refugees also, but we put it aside behind us to make a new future for us and for our children. But they are stuck on saying, oh, we are poor, oh, we got our houses, we left our houses, whatever. And from generation to generation, they get, I don't know, they get some kind of benefit on being poor. And it's their problem and their leaders' problem.
You don't think Israel has any responsibility?
There is a new city nearby in Ramallah.
Rawabi.
Right, Wahabi.
Rawabi.
Go and live there. We have nothing to do with Ramallah, with the Palestine Authority. So go and live there and make your own future and make a life. Not to stay and say, oh, I'm poor, I need help, I need money, I need this and that.
But you don't think Israel has any culpability, their fault in any way?
No, because
They created it.
Listen, my dear, I've never been to Ramallah. I haven't been to Gaza.
No, but in 1948. In 1948.
Listen, it was their blame. I'm sorry, because the United Nations decided on the state of Israel and the state of Palestine for the Arabs next to one another. And they started a war, and they decided that no Jews will live here. And unfortunately for them, we won the war. So now, tough, but sorry, we're a fact here. You want to live side by side in peace? Welcome. You want to kill us? You want to kick us out? We have no other place to go to.
Yes. Well, why can't you go back to Europe?
Because they killed us. There was a Holocaust. And not only in Europe. While the Holocaust was going on in Europe, in the Arabic countries like Iraq, there was a Farhud, what do you call it? What do you say?
Massacre.
Massacre of Jews, and in North Africa. So the Jews have no other place to go to, while the Muslims have 50-something states they can immigrate to. But you know what? The other countries, Arabic countries, they don't give a damn about them and they hate them. Yes. They kick them out. Was it Jordan or Syria? They killed the Palestinians. They kicked them out. Nobody wants anything to do with them. So sometimes the leaders, Arabic leaders, they pay them a little bit of money to shut up. But no one wants to get involved with them because they're troublemakers. They are involved in terrorism, and they're a big problem. So again, if they want to live state by state, and listen, we have many thousands of Arabic people from the Gaza Strip coming every day to work in Israel, and we have people from the what do you call it, Palestinian Authority in Ramallah.
West Bank,
Thousands of them come and work in Israel. And they provide for themselves and their families, and everything is fine. Until the extremists say, we will destroy the state of Israel. So, I don't want to say the F word.
Thanks everybody who watches the Ask Project. It's really, really appreciated. I've noticed lately that the amount of views are low, contributions have gone down. It's the only way I'm able to do this project is from your contributions and sharing the videos. Please contribute. Go into the description below to see how. Guys, I appreciate so much that you guys watch these videos, like these videos, share these videos, and contribute. It's amazing. Thank you.